God, what a godly upgrade to the soundtrack. Hello everyone, and welcome to Let's Replay Metroid Zero Mission, otherwise known as Let's 100% Metroid Zero Mission, because as with Metroid Fusion, as I've mentioned, I think twice last time, I did not 100% this game in either of my original playthroughs of it. So, let's get right into it. I'm also technically treating this more as a speedrun, because I'm trying to go through as fast as I can for 100%. Something I don't often do in this case. Playing on normal mode, because I don't like easy mode too much, and I don't have hard mode unlocked. And I wouldn't play hard mode anyway. Planet Zebes. I called this place home once in peaceful times, long before evil haunted the caverns below. Now I shall finally tell the tale of my first battle here. My so-called Zero Mission. Samus Aran. Yeah, they are very blunt about her being female in this game. And starting off, it is a full-out remake of Metroid 1, so go right to the left to get the Morph Ball, and we also still only have the short beam. We technically don't have the long beam yet, so we need to go get that again. Thankfully, I don't mind it much in this game, because Samus controls so much better anyway, so I don't really need to worry about that. Starting off, though, we do still want to go left and get that Morph Ball, because as with the original Metroid, there's going to be a lower ceiling in this upcoming area that we need to Morph Ball under. Morph Ball is still pressing down twice. I don't know why they never changed that outside of one of the 3D games, and this is a Chozo statue. The closest thing I can equate this to is Metroid Fusion's Atom. It'll give you a destination and not tell you how to get to it. It's how this game handles the linearity system. The Chozo statues also act as full energy and weapon recharge stations, except for the fact that I only have 99 energy and no weapons yet, so it's kind of pointless otherwise for right now. And a lot of the early Chozo statues, and by that I mean the first like 2 or 3, are actually completely unskippable, but later on you can skip most of them, and I'm going to be doing that. In fact, unlike Fusion, I'm going to be doing some sequence breaking in this game. Very minor in the long run, but it will help me get some items earlier than I'm intended to. And this room's seen some changes. Now we actually have to go a lower route first, and we actually cannot go back through that route even after getting the long beam because we can't reach those blocks. So we actually have to take that upper detour that we saw at that same time. Long beam, by the way, does the exact same thing it did in Metroid 1. Now our shots will actually go all the way across the screen. Thank God. The only reason that they make us not start with this in Zero Mission's case is because it's technically a remake, so she doesn't have the long beam yet. Odd how out of all of the upgrades that she would have kept, this is the one that always stayed with her. Either way, we can't go right yet, so let's actually head to the west. And this is a thing. If you remember the statues of Kraid and Ridley I showed off at the end of the original Metroid run, that's their equivalent. We can't go past that until we beat the 2 Space Pirate leaders. And speaking of which, the plot of this game is almost the exact same, but I'm still going to read the manual after we take care of a quick little mini-boss here. This red hopper just mashed the B button. That thing can actually do some damage if you let it get too close, but it's also a good tutorial for how to get past locked doors like that. There will be cases where you need to kill every enemy in the room in order to progress. And now we have to head over in that direction of Brinstar, which if you remember the original game's layout, the same power-up is still over there. Anyway, let's start going over the story from the manual. It's actually treated as a prologue, technically. In the year 2003, oh wow, that's futuristic. Of the cosmic calendar, representatives from many different planets in the galaxy established a congress called the Galactic Federation, and an age of prosperity began. A successful exchange of cultures and civilization resulted, and thousands of interstellar spaceships shuttled back and forth between planets. Soon, however, space pirates began to attack the spaceships, threatening the galactic peace. The galactic police and the galactic army struck against this aggression, but the pirates' attacks were too powerful, and it was impossible to catch them all in the vast reaches of space. So the Federal Bureau called together powerful bounty hunters to battle the pirates. Also, that was an earthquake, and there's our missiles. Missiles still act like they do in Fusion. Hold the R button, and then you can use the attack button to fire them. You only have 5 to start, total of 250 in the game, we gotta collect them all. But now we actually get this game's first new boss, actually. This is the Worm, King Worm, rather, and it's pretty easy. Hit its eye 3 times with missiles, and you are good. If you actually take too long, this boss will actually run away from you, and you'll find it again in a later area of Zebes. If you lose to it there, or you lose it again there, it will flee back here, so you basically have to track it down. But for beating it, we do get the Charge Beam introduced into Metroid 1. Obviously, this wasn't in the original Metroid because it wasn't introduced until Super, but with it we now have access to one of my favorite abilities, the pseudo-screw attack, as I tend to call it. I think it's actually just called the charge attack, where you somersault with the charge beam. Either way, back to the manual, because I had to interrupt myself there. In the year 20X5 of the Cosmic Calendar, a terrible incident occurred. The space pirates attacked a deep space research vessel and seized capsules containing samples of an unknown species that had been discovered on planet SR-388. The space pirates' objective was to acquire this life form, known simply as Metroids. These floating organisms were incredibly dangerous, as they could latch onto any organism and drain its life energy. Furthermore, it was possible to replicate the Metroids in vast numbers by exposing them to beta rays. The hypothesis that the Metroids were responsible for one of the greatest mysteries in the entire galaxy, the extinction of planet SR-388, was generally accepted as fact. Also, I'm killing things, don't worry too much about them. If the space pirates were able to breed the Metroids and use the creatures as biological weapons, the destruction of all galactic civilization would be near certain. After a desperate search, the Federation discovered the space pirates' bases of operations on the fortified planet Zebes. They launched a full assault on the planet, but pirate resistance was strong, and the planet could not be taken. All the while, in a room hidden deep within the center of the pirate fortress, the preparations for multiplying the Metroids is progressing steadily. Also, we got our first energy tank. As with last time, that adds 100 to our life total, as well as gives us a little thing on screen. So now it's just our life extensions. Most of the power-ups work the exact same as they did in either Fusion or Super here, I'll be completely honest. As a last resort, the Federation police decided on a risky strategy. Send a lone space hunter to penetrate the pirate base and destroy the mechanical life form that controlled the fortress and its defenses, the Mother Brain. The space hunter chosen for this mission was Samus Aran. Considered the greatest of all bounty hunters, Samus has successfully completed numerous missions that others had thought impossible. Despite her accomplishments, much of Samus's true identity remained wrapped in mystery. So they actually refer to Samus outright as a female from the start in this game, obviously. But before I get back onto the last paragraph, let's get past this missile door and once again, find ourselves some Morph Ball bombs. When you're in Morph Ball mode, press the B button to lay them. These are going to be very useful, get used to using them. Alone, Samus Aran successfully landed on the surface of Zebes, which was, in fact, the planet where Samus was raised as a child. Burying all memories of the planet, Samus agreed to carry this mission out this mission and face the traps of Mother Brain. But the question remained, could Samus Aran truly complete this task and return peace and order to the galaxy? Given the fact there's a Metroid 2, more than likely. Either way, the way that this game handles its linearity I find very interesting, because what very much happens through most of the game is you will find a Chozo statue which will direct you towards a power-up, and then you will use that said power-up, usually, to find another Chozo statue that will lead you towards the next power-up. And it's because of that a lot of the Chozo statues in this game are entirely skippable. Like there's one in one of the upcoming singular rooms I'm just completely ignoring, because I don't need to see, because I already know where I have to go afterwards. Also, interesting little graphical styling going on with this game's backgrounds. They went very similarly to the art style of Majora's Mask and some comic books, where they have very harsh shadows. And I really like that choice. And down there's where the Chozo statue is. Now, my mentality with the items for this game in terms of collectibles is somewhat similar to Fusion. I can get a lot more items early on in this game, and I will be getting a lot of them. However, I'm also going to have access to a lot of my abilities much more quickly in this game, but on the whole, that's also because Zero Mission is a shorter game than Fusion. Even though they play roughly around the same length, if you just skip most of Fusion's cutscenes, the cutscenes alone can inflate Fusion's gameplay to over twice the length of this. And I actually do mean that, because this is about 7 parts long, Fusion was 11, so yeah. Also, in terms of how I got introduced to Zero Mission, I mentioned, I believe, back during Fusion, that Fusion was the first Metroid game I played. Then I saw a commercial for this, and I was like, hey, another one, true, cool, let's get it, and I did, and I fell in love with it really quickly. This is, without a doubt, my favorite Metroid game. I'll go more into why as we continue on, but I love this game to death. Its soundtrack especially, they remixed the Metroid 1 soundtrack gloriously. The Norfair theme we're going to be hearing up in a few moments rather, is especially really good, though my favorite track is still Kraid's theme. Also, I'm not going to really bullshit around with the plot of the first part of the game. It's basically the exact same plot of the original Metroid. You know what's going to happen. You saw the original playthrough at this point. I see you watching me there, Mother Brain. That's not very cool of you. Either way, we're in Norfair, but we actually immediately have to go a different direction in it. We can't stay here for long at the moment. We have to go back towards where there was a missile tank in the original Metroid, because now, since this is after Super Metroid, they decided to add it in a few, mostly just one or two, areas from that exact game. Namely, we're going to be heading up an elevator in a moment, up to Crateria, which is a lot wetter in this game, because there's a lot of water here. Potentially, what you could do with the item I'm about to get, because I'm about to get a missile tank down here, you can actually wait until much later in the game to get this, and you'll probably save upwards of 10 to 20 seconds, possibly more, for doing that. I don't really care in the long run, though, because I know I can get this game done in under the 2 hours for the best image, unlike Fusion. In fact, I can say for a fact, this is probably my best time in a 100% playthrough I've ever done. I know I've gotten close to this several times, but I don't think I've ever gotten this low of a time. Also, the wall jump is still in this game. You still do it by pressing the opposite button and the jump button whenever you touch a wall. However, in this game's case, they actually went back to the Super Metroid version of it, where you can wall jump off a single wall. It's a lot more responsive, too. And these are blocks. They look like they have a beam on them. Weird. Oh, hey, there it is. Well, that was unnecessarily dramatic. Unknown item. Analysis inconclusive. Item incompatible with current suit. Weird. But at least when we get these items, we can now actually destroy the blocks with the design on it. Let's just say that'll come in handy later, and you do need to get it in order to progress. But yes, clearly, as you can see, because they decided to add in areas to the game, Zero Mission is not only just a remake of Metroid 1, it's more so a reimagining of how it would really have gone down. Like, this area is entirely new, and crap, crumble blocks. Yeah, they're still in this game, they're gonna block you off a lot, especially when you're going for 100% stuff. But here we get a really interesting item, the Power Grip. This is basically to explain why all of a sudden in Fusion, Samus can cling onto ledges. You can now cling onto any corner blocks. And trust me, that actually makes mobility really easy. Screw you or platforms, I can wall jump up here. Oh, wait, yeah, I have to kind of wait still. This is still faster to wall jump up to the top here, because then you don't have to go through as many platforms. Also, I really like this song here. It only plays in this one room. In fact, that room right there is the only one that looks exactly like that in terms of tile set in the game. So I always find that a bit odd. Mind you, they're being very obvious in this game that because this is where Samus grew up as a child, the Chozo lived here. And by jumping down here, we find something pretty interesting. Our ship. Our ship is kind of a combination of a save room and a Chozo statue. It fully restores your weapons and energy, as well as is just a flat save point. Saving, I'm not going to be doing as often as I did in Fusion, because I'm a lot more confident with Zero Mission. But trust me, you do want to save in very specific instances, because there are some pretty annoying parts of this game. I've been playing this game since it came out in 2004, I believe. But I still have some issues with certain boss fights. One in particular, and another in particular when you 100%. Either way, now that we got the Power Grip, we can actually do some more things down here in Norfair. Because us not being able to grip onto corners was actually why we couldn't go to the right immediately when we landed down here, or when we came down to Norfair. But first, I want to come over here for another missile tank. Seriously, though, I love these backgrounds. It is, I mentioned it back in Metroid 1, but it is pretty shocking how much just a simple background image can increase the atmosphere of an area. Not to say that the black backgrounds didn't create an atmosphere of their own, but this makes it actually feel more like a complete cavern area, you know? Plus, I just love the way that red looks. That's really nice. It is kind of odd, though, that the only thing that doesn't show that comic book art style that I mentioned earlier is the sprites of Samus and the enemies, outside of maybe 2 or 3 occasions. Because Samus does not look very harshly shadowed in this game. In fact, they kind of brightened her up a bit just so she can stand out a bit more. And I'm perfectly fine with that design choice. There is also some odd difference in gravity for Samus between this and Fusion. I want to say they use similar engines, but I'm not entirely sure about that, honestly. Because this game's development cycle is actually something I'm not entirely aware of. I'll probably do some research about that in between parts. I know at one point, Crocomire from Super Metroid was an intended boss fight for this game. In fact, his sprite is still in the game if you look into the files, but it's never used and the animations aren't finished. Though I believe there's a patch that someone made where he's an actual boss fight you can fight, even though I don't think he's actually anywhere in the actual areas of the game. So that's pretty interesting. Either way, we're actually coming up on the split point for what my original playthroughs did and what this playthrough's doing. Because, as I mentioned before, by the way, we're about to get the Ice Beam. Still allows you to freeze enemies, though now it actually does a decent amount of damage in comparison. It actually does stackable damage with the Long Beam. In my original playthrough, I was basically just playing the game and sort of trying to play it well. In my secondary playthrough, I went out of my way for less items, I believe, and I also tried to be a bit faster with it. This is just full-out 100% speedrun. Not a really good speedrun, because I'm going to look up what's the in-game time thing for the world record. Zero mission 100% speedrun. Because my time is way above that, I can tell you that for a fact. World record, 100% normal. An hour and 10 minutes, real time, 50 minutes, 15 seconds in-game time. That's over half of my time. Speedrunners of this game are ridiculous, though. This game actually has a couple interesting speedruns. Like, there's difficulties, like 80% normal, 100% normal, 90% hard. But then there's 9% normal and 10% hard, because I think those are the minimal percents you can actually need to beat the game with. Either way, the first big split from the original playthroughs is actually coming up in this next room, which takes us back to that shaft. In my original playthrough, I fell through the crumble blocks I'm standing on right now. However, there's a hidden passageway through a missile block right there. This passageway has two purposes. First off, it allows you to go to Ridley's layer early, so if you want to take out Ridley first, you can. I'm not doing that, I'm still going to take on Kraid first, but I'm going down here to get the items that are down here first. Because that will allow me to do some other stuff for myself as well, like having not only more ammo, but also just more mobility to get other items later on. So yeah, if you actually want to go to Ridley first, head down that lower left door. You'll have to go through a mini-boss first, I believe, but you can beat it fairly easily as long as you have enough missiles. At this point, I believe I very much do. And if you don't, you can probably get these two, and you'll more than likely have more than enough. Anyway, let's go through this door. Oh boy, Garudas. Garudas. They are a lot less annoying in this game. In fact, outside of the boss fights, I don't think I can think of a single normal annoying enemy in this game. And here's the high jump boots. On the exact same place they were in Metroid 1, only I'm getting them a lot earlier than the game means you to. As you can probably tell just based off that shortcut I took to get these, this game actually has a lot of shortcuts that you can find in order to go through certain pathways without having certain items. And because of that, you can actually completely skip getting some abilities in general, if you're good enough at learning the map layout. I'm still going for everything, obviously, because 100% run, but this game is honestly a bit more thrilling when you try to do a low percent run, because there's a lot of stuff you can do in this game. The designers gave you a lot of nice little pathways. It's actually one of my reasons that this is my favorite Metroid, is just because the level design is the most player-friendly in terms of routes. You could go where the game wants you to go with the Chozo statues, or you can explore a bit on your own. Mind you, I still think probably the most open-ended Metroid is probably Super, and to some extent. Well, actually, no, technically speaking, the most open-ended one is 1, because you can go anywhere you want once you get the bombs, but in terms of, like, getting what items in what order, probably this and Super. Though the next game I'm doing has a decent chunk of that as well. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we'll be heading back to Brinstar to get a few more items before, if I recall correctly, heading after Kraid fairly quickly. See you guys then.